Welcome back to this introduction series about Scrum. So what we're going to focus on this lesson is actually Scrum. Finally, some Scrum stuff. Now, we are going to introduce you to this page first, scrum.org, which is, I think, a pretty good page to get a good overview about what Scrum is and how it works. You can get certifications, you can get some training in here. I don't want to dive into that because it's not my page. But if you go down here, you can see what is Scrum. Now, there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of people explaining Scrum, a lot of great guides out there. You can go and check them out yourself. We just want to start here. If we go down here, you can see a better way of building products. And there's a lot of great text you can go and read. This lesson, we just want to focus on this beautiful model down here that they made. And we just want to dive into that model and try and explain to you how the Scrum process actually works. There's a lot of stuff here that's hidden. And as we dive into specific areas, we'll open that up and talk about that more specifically for each area inside the Scrum process.
So we will just step by step go through very briefly this model you have here. So starting up with the left side, which is the product backlog, where you have all of the requirements, specification, the epic stories, the stories and so on, which is break down. Do you call it that? Broken down into small features that you should implement on your web page and so on. So that is actually the product backlog, which can be changed all the time because it's an agile process.
Yeah, so I guess that's the small arrow right here, just saying it's going to be changed maybe next time we've had a review with the customer. So the next thing that we want to talk about is planning. So when you have this huge backlog of features, again, we don't want to end up in the waterfall model. We want to kind of do this iterative, incremental. So what we want to do is we have this 14 days period, 1 to 4 weeks. I just picked 2 weeks, and I'll keep doing that from now on. We have this small period of time to develop part of the software, the incremental part, right? So now we're going to, if this is the first time, we're just going to build the foundation. That's all we're going to build for this 14 days period. So there are some tasks up here or some stories up here explaining that we need to get started, right? We're going to grab those stories, we're going to put them into another backlog called the sprint backlog.
Yeah, and the sprint backlog is, of course, what you took from the product backlog, taking that into the sprint, and the sprint is, as Lars said, it could be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you're working exactly on those tasks here, those user stories, features, and so on, in that specific sprint.
Yeah. So now we have decided what we want to work with. Now we need to do the work, right? So of course this will take a bit of time to do the planning, but now we're at a point where we can, as developers, start really building the software. We also have a guy called the Scrum Master who will kind of overview that we follow the process, and we have a product owner who can kind of communicate to if we need to get, even in the sprint, each day we could actually ask for more feedback from a customer if we wanted to, through something called the product owner. Again, we'll dive into all of that. So here are the 14 days. We are building software every day, and every day we have a daily Scrum meeting, which is called a stand-up meeting.
And the reason why it's stand-up meeting is because we need to deliver very fast, and it's a dynamic meeting where people explain what they did, what is the plan for today and tomorrow and so on.
Yeah, and it's very important, it's short. We are talking 5, max 10 minutes. So it's very, very short. It's just a small overview about what are you going to do today and what did you do. So the final thing that's going to happen is, now the 14 days has passed, the 2 weeks are over. We have to now contact the customer right here in the sprint review, and we say, dear customer, this is what we built, what do you think? And the customer will give you feedback. Now the feedback can actually end up in changes in the product backlog. Again, back to the dynamic arrow right here. We can change this, again, compared to the waterfall, you couldn't do that, but here you can. So every 14 days now, I can get feedback and change what I actually built, if needed.
So we have these iterations where you work in loops, so you always have the possibility to go back and change something. That's the good thing about Scrum.
Exactly. And after the sprint review, if the customer is happy with the feature, you kind of add that now to the portfolio of features in your product. So now you kind of increment it. So now you start expanding your software, right? Every time a customer signs off, it starts growing the software. That's amazing. So again, compared to the waterfall model where we ended up having a done product after the 2 years in the bunker, we came out and said, this is the software. And the customer said, oh no, that's not what I need. Now we kind of have a way to slowly expand the software every time we come out of maybe it's a small bunker and we just come out every 14 days. But still, we slowly expand the software and we have feedback every 14 days from the customer. Very, very powerful stuff. When that is done, we can actually do something else, which is the final event I want to talk about in Scrum, and that's the sprint retrospective. So it's pretty much just a way, if I was working together with Trine, we could actually sit down together now and just discuss how did the 14 days actually go? Were the things that we liked, were the things we disliked, and was there any way we could improve the things we didn't like? So it's kind of a way for the team itself to improve, right? So we also have added that into the Scrum process. Now I said we, but it's actually not me who built this process, so just to let you know that. So that's kind of the Scrum framework for you. And next lessons, we're going to start diving into these areas and how you guys can work with them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
See you next time.
See you.